Chapter 34. Choose Your Owl. The rest of Lydia's second year at Hogwarts was marred only by a patch of dreams she had. She could not remember them, but they left her with an unsettled feeling for hours afterwards. Sophie's hair became as beautiful as ever. This was in spite of Quidditch practice in all kinds of weather, and her suffering from abdominal cramps from time to time. Freddy was as Freddy as always, and Teddy Lupin was a friend again, though no longer a confidant. Dev Perec, the Gryffindor Lydia had met on her visit before joining the school, started to sit with them in the common room. He was a friend of Sophie's from her first days at the school. The full story never came out, but Dev had helped Sophie when she was being bullied by other first years. Dev was now top of the class in the third year. He had always been academically good with any subject that held his interest, and now that his wand work had caught up, he was unstoppable. Also, after half a year into his owl arithmancy course, Professor Brandon was giving him tuition on the fourth-year syllabus. Dev was nervous around people he didn't know well. It was brave of him to join the usually quite large group Lydia and her friends had become. But he knew Lydia and Sophie. On their recommendation, the others accepted him without question. Sophie's cat, Elsa, rarely paid attention to anyone except Sophie and Xander. She liked Dev, though. Xander would lie in Oddie's lap. Elsa would lie in Dev's. Dev and Oddie had got on well from the start. Dean called Dev an honorary Ravenclaw because of his outstanding academic prowess. Oddie gave Dev the ultimate accolade when he said that talking with Dev was as good as reading a book. Only Xander, and possibly Dean, were quite so high in Oddie's estimation. Lydia and Tina met Freddy in the courtyard one Sunday morning. Lydia was going down to the loch to swim with the giant squid. "No Sophie today?" Freddy asked. "No, she's not feeling well," Lydia explained. "She's gone back to bed, I think. Anyway, I've brought Tina along instead, so you'll have someone to annoy while I'm swimming." Freddy grinned at Tina. "Great! I'll be gentle with you, seeing it's your first time." Tina blushed. "You know," said Freddy, as they were on their way down to the loch, "I'm a bit worried about Sophie. She's been unwell a lot this year. It's every few weeks." Tina looked at Lydia, then turned to Freddy. "Haven't you noticed? It's the same time every month." Tina looked at him with her eyebrows raised, as though waiting for him to make a connection. Freddy gasped. "You mean she's a werewolf?" Tina giggled. Lydia sighed. "No, you complete flannel. She's a woman." Freddy wore a puzzled frown as they carried on walking. He stopped on the spot. Oh, you mean ooh. I mean, not ooh, because it's just natural and I shouldn't say ooh, but, well, you know, ew." Lydia scowled at him. "Watch it, Fortescue. You're outnumbered by girls. Be very careful what you say." Freddy set off walking again and raised his arms. "Doesn't the lake look pretty this morning?" Tina grinned at Lydia. "He's so sweet, though." Lydia rolled her eyes. She never had these problems with the giant squid. As the academic year steamed on towards exam time, the second-year students gained an extra burden. They had to decide which elective classes to take leading towards the ordinary wizarding level exams at the end of their fifth year. There was a general feeling that this was some sort of ridiculous punishment. How were they to know which courses they would be good at, or find interesting, or be able to pass an exam in so many years from now? They were at a time in their lives when things were changing, and they were changing too. One choice seemed essential to Lydia. She had to take care of magical creatures. She loved animals and she liked Hagrid. She had never forgotten her time with the unicorns. She would suggest it to Freddy. He would love it, and he would get on well with Hagrid. They were alike. Hagrid was a huge hairy Freddy, or Freddy was a sweet little gay Hagrid. That thought gave her a little shock. Did she think Freddy was gay? Did it matter? Could she love him any more or any less because of one little word? No. Only Freddie should say what he was. To her, he would always be Freddie. Where was she? Oh, yes. Would Sophie want to take magical creatures, or Comac as the students called it, with them? She hoped so, but she wouldn't want her to take a class she didn't need and miss out on something else. The three of them got together to choose their elective subjects. They decided there was a real chance of the numbers being small enough for some of the subjects to have all the houses together in one class. That would be the case for Lydia's preference, Comac. People liked Hagrid, but he was not regarded as a proper professor. Lydia loved animals too much not to take magical creatures. Freddie had a desire to take divination, which was more popular. Many girls were fascinated by the subject. Many boys thought it was an easy option. Freddie was with the girls on this one, but sincerely hoped the boys were right too. Sophie wanted to take ancient runes with Professor Rankin, though she couldn't say why. Lydia was happy to go along with that choice. She had admired the research Draco and Hermione had been able to do because of their ability to read ancient texts. She had even learned a few things from Draco. They'd only needed 2 elective subjects, but they decided to apply for the same 3 together. These were Care of Magical Creatures, Divination, and Ancient Runes. Sophie was unsure about Divination, but felt she could drop it if it didn't suit her. Freddie was unsure about Runes, but liked Professor Hugo Rankin because he looked utterly mad. They duly signed up for the courses and waited to find out how the timetables would work out. By the end of the term, they knew they had been accepted on the courses. Despite the applications for divination meaning that 2 classes would be run, they'd all got into the same class together. The classes were not split on house lines. Lydia suspected that there had been some help from McGonagall to keep them together. All 3 of them would be taking divination with Sybil Trelawney. Oddie got his choices of arithmancy and ancient runes. He was told he couldn't take any NEWT subjects, as he needed to have performed all the practical coursework and tests in the core subjects first. He had wanted to take alchemy, but it depended on OWL results in charms and potions. He would have to think of another subject to take. At the end of year feast, McGonagall announced that the House Cup was going again to Hufflepuff. Once again, they won by a narrow margin over Ravenclaw. Freddie was delighted. The Quidditch Cup went to Gryffindor, who had won every match by a large margin. The combination of the 2 best chasers in the school and the best seeker, supported by other good players, was unbeatable. Slytherin came second, slightly ahead of Ravenclaw. Hufflepuff had fallen from the previous heights they had enjoyed under Captain Llynnos Pritchard. She was now leading the Holyhead Harpies at the top of the professional league. The top student of each year awards included Dev Parekh and Odysseus Anderson once again. Nobody was surprised. As other announcements were made, Lydia thought about the work she had done with Draco. Professor Malfoy had been constantly impressed with her work. She had reached a level where she was starting to grasp that she had and could control abilities that not even adult witches and wizards had. The one frustration she had was that she couldn't repeat the occasional insights she had had into the paths the near future might take. Being able to see ahead like that, on demand, would be amazing, she had thought. Draco had warned that it might prove a blessing and a curse. They had talked about this at some length, and Lydia had come out of the discussion with a feeling of dread. They took the Hogwarts Express the following morning and were picked up by Uncle Ambrose. Sophie and Freddie were going to stay at Lydia's house all summer. Their families would visit whenever they were free. Nana Inkwood was already there, Ambrose told them, as she was as free as the wind. The motor car was parked in a no-parking space once again. It was untroubled by parking tickets once again. On their way home, they stopped to pick up Selina, Sophie's mum, from her work at the hospice. As they arrived at the old rectory, Freddie's parents were arriving via the living room fireplace. Lydia stepped onto Freddie's trampoline that evening and felt her heart swell with love and happiness. Great friends and good times. These were days she would remember all her life.